Well, it's 9:30 in the morning on September 13th, 2013. We're on the Peru dock with John Rock.
Well, good morning,
See how
Gordy.
nice that rhymes? Peru
Yes.
dock with John Rock.
Yes.
And we're going to make a trip to Crab Island, a trip that the hometown cable cameras, Gordy Little and John Rock from Post 1619 have made, I don't even know how many times.
Yes, we have, Gordy. We've made quite a few trips, and it's such an honor every year to go out and honor the veterans who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we live under today. You know, this is such an important island out here that people don't realize the history that was actually made out here. And there's a lot of young boys that are buried on this island. When I say young boys, I'm talking 15, 14, probably 16 years old that were in the battle and gave their lives. And those, little did they know that day when they stepped on those boats that they were never going to return, nor would they ever know what they accomplished with giving the ultimate sacrifice to what we have today. It's a real honor and tribute to pay honor to these people out there.
You know, John, I've been around here in the media, as you know, since 1961. When I came here and started work on the radio, I had no idea what Crab Island was or where it was until I met a guy named Captain Frank Pabst. We did a little diving in the lake and went and saw the islands, and I started to learn a little bit about the history. When did you start thinking or knowing about Crab Island?
I too was basically, well, I learned about Crab Island a little bit years ago, but basically when Captain Frank, I was on the Juniper one night talking with him, and I basically too got my interest and my start from the captain, God rest his soul, and I miss him truly and dearly, a great friend.
But since then, Calvin and I have joined you so many times with these old microphones, and we've talked about the Crab Island and its significance to the history of the North Country on numerous occasions. And you and I, as we stand here on this floating Peru dock, ready to get on and head over to the island, we really care about what happened over there, don't we?
Yes, we do, Gordy, and it's like I said, it's such a privilege and an honor to pay respect to these people who are laying on the island. People don't realize the sacrifice they made. These people fought with black powder cannons, rifles, guns, knives, hatchets, anything they could get their hands on to achieve their goal, which was to basically keep our land.
There's been a monument on Crab Island for a long time, but there wasn't always a flagpole.
No. Our flagpole was taken down, and God rest his soul, like I said before, Captain Frank salvaged the pole off in the island in 1995.
Think about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's quite a round-robin circumstances that this all came about, and that we befriended each other, and everybody seemed to join forces to come to this, to accomplish this. But our main goal was to fly their flag, fought for that flag, and the state totally neglected their respect to those people laying on that island. And our Legion Post 1619, which I have to thank my brother, who's the commander now, Mike Rock, and all the rest of the volunteers that we had from the post up there who have been supporting us throughout the years, got together and we all put our heads together and we got our flagpole up so that our veterans can enjoy what they fought for.
And a memorial and some nice services in between. And as I said a few minutes ago, we're frantically getting ready for the 200th anniversary, which will take place about this time
next year,
2014. Won't that be wonderful?
And there again, there's another significant date, as a lot of people don't tie the two dates together, that this battle was actually fought on September 11th, 1814. And then we had the attack on the Twin Towers in New York City on September 11th. So there is a significance to the land and what it means that we fought for.
So what will happen out there on the island today?
We're going to go out and lay a wreath and respect and raise and lower the flag and put a wreath for remembrance of our comrades in arms.
That's great, John. Thanks for spending a little time with us.
Thank
we'll
you,
talk to you again before we come home.
Thank you, Gordy.
Okay, buddy. We're on the boat, and our special thanks to Scott Bushy for allowing Calvin and I to hop aboard. Well, hop may not be the operative word, but we scrambled aboard anyway, and we got a nice crowd going over to Crab Island this morning. It's a trip the hometown cable cameras and myself have made a number of times, and it's always a big thrill to come over here, because if nobody appreciates the history of Crab Island connected with the War of 1812 and the battles of Plattsburgh, we do. And it's been our great pleasure with Hometown Cable and Calvin Castine to chronicle this story from the very beginning. We have something very special with us today, in case you want to take a look at it later. I'm not going to open the box on the boat because this 15-star Star-Spangled Banner might fly in places we didn't want it to fly today if I let it go. But John Rock has promised us that by the time we get to the island, we will raise this flag on that beautiful flagpole that he and his friends worked so hard to erect, and then we'll take it down and put a much larger 15-stripe Star-Spangled Banner up on the pole next year. So I'll put that box next to me for safekeeping. I don't know how this is going to work out, but before we got aboard today, I did a lot of research on the origin of the Star-Spangled Banner. I tell you that one of the biggest thrills of my lifetime was to go to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. with my kids when they were small. Now they're in their 50s and 60s, to give you an idea how long ago it was, and to look at the original Star-Spangled Banner that flew over Fort Mchenry, that this Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem, is written about, to view it up close and personal before it was even restored for the second time in 1998. It was a thrill for me. We had a slight change of the microphone. Calvin's used to sticking it in his shirt, you know. I see him at various occasions where he needs one hand on the camera, one hand on the, I don't know what he does with the third hand, but anyway, we'll put the microphone in there. Maybe it'll cut down on some of the wind. And there is a distinct breeze. When I awoke this morning, it was about 58 or 59 degrees on my back enclosed deck along the Saranac River. My wife said, "You better put your sweatshirt on." You know how wives are. "You better put your sweatshirt on." Look at Scott. No brain, no pain, my mother used to say. So my wife said, "Put your fleece on top of that." Well, Calvin and I have been on Lake Champlain in, what was it, October, November, one year, many years ago, when we brought some experts in to try to define where the actual Battle of Plattsburgh off Cumberland Head occurred, and so we know what cold is on this lake, so we're prepared. I don't have my long johns on, and if I did, I wouldn't show them to you anyway today. Oh, sure. If you haven't seen it, I'd like to show you a picture of one of the last two surviving copies of the Star-Spangled Banner. There are only two copies, and one of them is in the Maryland Historical Society Museum, and that isn't the original draft because Francis Scott Key wrote the first verse on an envelope while he was aboard a ship. And this is the first broadside that was done. It was printed shortly after he wrote it. Of course, it wasn't called the Star-Spangled Banner. It was called the Defense of Fort Mchenry. And there it is. I don't know how many of you have ever heard or seen the last three verses of the Star-Spangled Banner. You've heard the first one sung thousands of times at sporting events and various other historical and military events. But the other three verses I think are worthy of mentioning on our trip across to Crab Island today aboard the boat, if I'm not overwhelmed by the sound of the sea. But here it is. On the shore dimly seen through the mists of the deep, where the foe's haughty host in dread silence reposes. What is that which the breeze o'er the towering steep, as it fitfully blows, half conceals, half discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected, now shines on the stream. 'Tis the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Next verse. And where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country shall leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And the last verse, oh, thus be it ever when freemen shall stand between their loved home and war's desolation. Rest with victory and peace. May the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And that, my friends, is the Star-Spangled Banner. It was actually printed in music form shortly after it was written, and this is what that original looks like. When I was a little boy, there was no television, there was only radio, and very often at night we would sit around the piano and sing songs, and my mother would play. And this woodcut was done long before that, but this is what it looked like when people stood around the piano and sang the Star-Spangled Banner in days of old. What are you? Yeah, I'm the little one pumping the piano. And I have to tell you that the Star-Spangled Banner, as it came to be known, was very popular right from the beginning. As a matter of fact, during the American Civil War, it was extremely popular, especially in the North. They waved the flag and sang and played it with bands all over the place. And this photograph I'm going to show you is of the Elmira Cornet Band. That's about as New York State as you can get. There they are playing the Star-Spangled Banner during the Civil War, the war between the states in the 1860s. So the Star-Spangled Banner has been around for a long time. And I wonder how many of you know that we didn't have a formal national anthem for the United States of America until 1931. Isn't that incredible? The lyrics, as I told you before, are part of a poem called The Defense of Port McHenry. It was written in September 1814 by a 35-year-old lawyer and an amateur poet whose name was Francis Scott Key. And he was aboard a ship in details which I won't get into today, but you can find all this information readily on the internet. He witnessed the bombardment of Fort McHenry by the British Royal Navy ships in Chesapeake Bay during the Battle of Fort McHenry in the War of 1812. And I wonder if you know where the song came from, where the actual music came from. Well, I'm going to tell you. It's part of a popular British drinking song written by a man named John Stafford Smith for the Anacreontic Society. That's a men's social club in London. And it's called the Anacreontic Song, or To Anacreon in Heaven. And it's had various lyrics before we got it attached to the Star-Spangled Banner. But the song itself, the melody, was already popular in the United States. So somebody realized, hey, these lyrics fit the melody. So they put the two together and set the whole thing to Key's poem, renamed it the Star-Spangled Banner, and I guess you know how popular it is as an American patriotic song. I guess you also know that it's one of the most difficult songs to sing. I say that from experience because I have tried to sing it. The notes themselves span 1.5 octaves. I can hit the low ones with no problem at all, but when it comes to the last phrase, boy, you better take a deep breath and hope for the best. And after all these years, I know I couldn't do it. The Star-Spangled Banner was recognized for official use by the Navy in 1889 and by President Woodrow Wilson in 1916. but it wasn't made the national anthem until a congressional resolution came around on March 3rd, 1931, which was signed by President Herbert Hoover. Very good. Or as somebody tried to say when they read his name on the radio years ago, Hubert Heaver. Remember that? Well, before 1931, there were lots of other songs that served as hymns of the American officialdom. You might remember Hail Columbia. It served that purpose as an official song at many functions for almost all of the 19th century in the 1800s. And then, My Country 'Tis of Thee, right? The melody of My Country 'Tis of Thee is very interesting because it's identical to a song you might have heard called God Save the Queen, the British national anthem. Following the War of 1812 and all the subsequent American wars, a lot of other songs would emerge to compete for popularity at public events, and among them was the Star-Spangled Banner. That's a little bit of background about how the Star-Spangled Banner came about. And it goes all the way back to September 3rd, 1814, following the burning of Washington and the raid on Alexandria. And these two guys, Francis Scott Key and John Stuart Skinner, took off on a sailboat from Baltimore aboard a ship known as the HMS Minden. And it was flying a flag of truce on a mission that actually had been approved by President James Madison. The whole idea was to try to secure the exchange of prisoners. And one of those prisoners was Dr. William Beans, the elderly and popular town physician of Upper Marlborough, a friend of Key's who had been captured in his home. And Beans was accused of trying to aid the arrest of British soldiers. So Key and Skinner got aboard the British flagship HMS Tonnant on September 7th. They spoke with Major General Robert Ross and Vice Admiral Alexander Cochrane over dinner while the two officers discussed their battle plans. At first, Ross and Cochrane refused to release Beans, but they relented after Key and Skinner showed them letters written by wounded British prisoners praising Beans and other Americans for their very kind treatment. Now, as I just told you, Key and Skinner had heard details of the plans for the attack on Baltimore, so they couldn't let him off the boat. They had to keep him captive there until after the battle, and they were first aboard the HMS Surprise and later back on the HMS Minden. And after the bombardment, certain British gunboats tried to slip past the fort and effect a landing in a cove to the west of it, but they were turned away by the fire from nearby Fort Covington, if you can believe that, the city's last line of defense. So it was a very rainy night, much like last night was here in New York State's North Country. Key had witnessed the bombardment. He saw that the fort's a small storm flag had continued to fly, but once the shell and the Congreve rocket barrage had stopped, he wouldn't know how the battle turned out until dawn. I think we got a little wet. Do you think?
My wife's swimming.
Oh boy, can you imagine that? Anything to add to the drama of the trip. Oh boy.
I think you wet yourself.
Well, I think it is time to unfurl the 15-star Star-Spangled Banner on Crab Island. For those of you who had let your imagination run amok as we were making the trip over from the Peru dock to Crab Island, I can fill in the blanks. Camera stopped midstream because the waves were very high and coming over the bow of the boat. I don't mind telling you that it was one of the roughest trips I've taken on this lake in quite a few years. Some of those do not deserve mention on this program, but this lake can be nasty for those of you who have small boats. We had a little bit of difficulty docking on the way. I just want to show this flag to you, John. This is the first 15 Star-Spangled Banner that's been here on this island since back in the day.
Back in the day.
And there we are. That's what it looks like.
Where did we get that flag?
And that flag comes from Woodmen of the World. Woodmen of the World has presented flags to people of so many organizations, so many places, along with flag poles, which we've seen erected and covered on Hometown Cable. Look at this. You and I could go, if we hooked this on the boat, we could go back to shore. Isn't that?
Parasailing.
Yeah, parasailing. Isn't that beautiful?
It is, Gordy.
We started with a little history of the Star-Spangled Banner, how it was written, when it was written, and how the first flag was made, which I didn't get to discuss yet because we have a few waves coming over the bow of the boat. Did you get wet, John?
Oh, no, not too bad.
Not too bad. Well, this is the flag, and we're going to try to get it up the pole after a bit, aren't we, John?
Yes, hopefully we will, in the wind. We will get it up, Gordon.
You can get it. We'll let it fly for a time, and it will be historically significant, John, because as I said before, to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been a Star-Spangled Banner here, a 15-star.
No, we haven't had a chance to put one up. We were getting prepared to put one up next year for the 200th anniversary, Gordy.
You'll get a big one.
Yes.
How big are those, 8 by 12? 5 by 8. 5 by 8?
Yes.
That'll be nice.
Yes, and the period flag will be nice for the 200th anniversary for all these vets out here.
While we're here, I just want to refresh people's memories who may not be from this area and who may not have been regular viewers of Hometown Cable in our little corner. Tell me a little bit about this flagpole and its history and how you got it up here.
Well, this flagpole, like I said in the earlier conversation, this flagpole was taken off in here in 1995 by Captain Frank Papps, who brought it to the state, who just left it in disarray out to Point of Rush. Then in 2000, I started a program to restore this flag and put this flagpole back up for the veterans who are laying out here, which no veteran should be lying alone. They fought for the flag and they deserve to have it. So I approached, I'm a former New York State Electric and Gas worker, retired from there, and I went and saw those people, and those people were very generous in helping us. They gave us a $3,500 loan to buy what you can see, the lower casings on the pipes, the cluster of pipes.
Right.
That was, excuse me, that part of that was all rotted off from weather and over the years. And there's little sprockets like on the inside of those, which also had to be replaced. So all of that lower part is replaced, but those are the original straps on that pole. That's the original coupler that was on the pole. And the crow's nest and that coupling up there and the next two lengths of pipe are all the original pieces on that pole, as well as the suspension rods. And then we had a helicopter come up here, a Chinook from the Air National Guard out of Connecticut. And they pulled our pole over on us and dropped it, and we got out here with a bunch of guys and we put it together. And this tree right directly behind it, Gordy, was what we used to raise that flagpole by hand.
Isn't that amazing?
It was.
We were here and I was cheering.
Yes, it was.
Good thing the beer was cold that day. I'll tell you that.
It was a very exciting day for all of us up here that day, and to see the flag go up on this island once again after all the years that it hasn't flown out here. And it's a shame, but you can see what the veterans and people who care about this island do to get here. On a day like this, there would be nobody in their right mind out on the lake. Well, there isn't anybody but us on the lake.
I saw somebody trying to paddle a kayak across behind us. I couldn't believe it. That was quite a day. We're doing this on the 13th of September 2013. And the wind is, how strong would you say that wind is?
I'd say the wind is probably 15 knots or so.
Yeah.
Yes. Right
Just
around.
enough to really raise holy cane, huh?
But one thing about it, Gordy, the wind, the day of the battle that was fought out here, the wind was blowing out of the northwest, the same direction that it is today.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is amazing. That's what's so amazing about it, is to have the wind. I don't think the wind was as strong as what it was today, but it was a northwest wind that was told in the history books that the wind was coming out of the same direction.
I mentioned as soon as we landed, and I dried off the end of the microphone as we came up the side of the bank, that people don't realize how rough this lake can get.
No.
From time to time.
No, and that was also a challenge with the battle that took place so late in the fall. The fall winds are very mean on this lake and nasty, and it can get pretty, well, as you can see today, it can get pretty rock and rolling.
Well, just to let people know how difficult it is to come out here and do this ceremony every year when the wind is strong, it's hard to dock over here.
Yes, it is. It's very...
We don't have long, beautiful docks. And
No, and so it's pretty primitive out here still, right to this day. But
We're going to start over the monument.
okay, yes, but like I said, the determination and everything, and of all the veterans from post 1619 and friends and everyone else that's out here that show their appreciation and their honor and respect for the people who are lying out here.
that's true. Now we're going to take a walk over to the monument, which
Yes.
has been here for a long time and is restored. Crab Island is a far cry from what it was 30 or 40 years ago.
Yes, it
to
is.
A lot of volunteer hard work.
Yes, it is, Gordy. It's a very somber place when you come over here. It stays in your thoughts and your mind once you've been over here as much as we have, but even 1 or 2 visits, and it stays in your thoughts and minds forever.
For a long, long time.
Yes, it
All
does.
right, let's take a walk.
Okay, Gordy.
Okay, Johnny. I know that. Mike Rock, how are you?
Pretty good.
Commander Post 1619, West Plattsburgh. Yeah, the first thing he said before Calvin hit the on button was, why didn't we do this on the 11th? It was 93 degrees.
93, beautiful out.
Just to let people know again, if you just turned on your television set or watched us on the computer, it's a cool day. I don't know if it's cool in hell, but it's cool on Crab Island.
That's for sure.
Temperature down to in the high 50s this morning, and that's about all it is now. The wind is very strong. That was quite a ride across, huh?
Right out of the northwest she's coming. We probably got 2-foot waves out there.
I know, a little bit of fun, a little bit of spray every now and again.
Yeah.
Well, we're here, Mike.
Made it.
We wouldn't want to be any other place today. This is very important, and you know what's even more important is what Post 1619, you and your brother and all the other volunteers have done to make this happen.
We've got a ton of volunteers up there, and I mean, without those, there's no way one person or 2 can do it. I mean, everybody gets right on board up there. They've really come on board, and our post, the Sons, the auxiliary, the riders, our regular Legion members, everybody pitches in. That's what's really called the Legion family up there. Everybody comes on board.
Well, 1619 has done a beautiful job in restoring those beautiful old buildings and adding to it and rebuilding the dam, and it's a nice looking site up there in West Plattsburgh now, isn't it?
That dam, I don't know what it would have cost to put that back, and we put that back. Well, it took us 2 years, but that was all volunteer, just with the material, and a lot of that was donated, and it's amazing to see how that is. Larry Seymour was our head mason.
Nit Seymour is quite a character, and he back in the day when the plan was to try to restore the old dam, because it was the old Morrisonville swimming hole for a while.
Yep.
Somebody said to me, how can we find out what that dam looked like? So I called my late brother-in-law, Don Dashnaw, down in North Charleston, South Carolina, and his wife, my sister-in-law, Lee Dashnaw, said, wait a minute, I think I got a photograph. So from the 1940s, there was a picture of her in her then very stunning bathing suit,
Right.
sitting on the dam.
I remember seeing that.
So we had a picture of exactly what it looked like, and as fate would have it, we got some original plans in downtown Plattsburgh, right?
Right, yep. From in the 1920s, that dam was originally built, and that used to be the city of Plattsburgh's water supply.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
So, long story short, it's restored.
It's restored.
1619 has had a lot to do with a lot of the restoration and things that are going on here in Crab Island. It's always great to see this monument since it was restored too, isn't it?
Oh
Doesn't it
my
look
God,
great?
it's beautiful. The plaques that are on there now, they got all redone up at the prison. The inmates redid those because somebody had taken them off.
I know.
They found them, threw them in the
lake.
lake.
Yeah.
Roger has got a lot of the original ones are in the museum
Yes.
that we could find, but the brass ones, these are ones that the Clinton Correctional Facility made for us up there. I mean, the community pitches in so much if you just go and ask them. I mean, it's amazing how many people will come together and do it.
A lot of people don't, I hate to say that Crab Island is the poor stepchild in this Battle of Plattsburgh commemorations, but a lot of people don't know about it. I mean, how many people have made the trip to Crab Island? A lot of our viewers wouldn't have an idea what it looked like out here if it weren't for Calvin and that hometown cable camera every year.
You're not kidding. That's very, very important for there. And before we started coming out here and got involved in restoring the flagpole and that, Pickles Toloski and his bunch from Line Mountain used to come out here every year when it was nothing but it was all grown up. There was poison ivy everywhere, and then Roger come on board, and then everybody started. It just kind of started. Well, my brother John really got going. He's like a bulldog when you give him something.
I've known you guys for a long, long time. So John and I go back about 50 years.
Yeah.
It's nice to have it done. Thanks to all the people whose names we haven't mentioned for making these nice trails, killing off the poison ivy.
Yeah.
Now we have commemorative plaques out here. We've got all kinds of memorials to the guys who fought and died. This was a hospital during the War of 1812 and the battles of Plattsburgh. There are a lot of people buried here in an as yet undesignated site.
Right.
And so it's a very special place for you and me and tons of other people whom I know.
Yeah, anybody that hasn't been here, when we do that service, you can just feel there's something out here. You feel it.
There is
you
no
can
question.
feel the spirit or whatever. You get the goosebumps, and next year is the 200 year, and we're really gearing up for that. That's going to be a big one.
It'll be a good one. Well, we're here almost 11 o'clock in the morning on September 13th, 2013 as part of all the commemorative activities for the battles of Plattsburgh, and we wouldn't miss this for the world, in spite of that trip over here.
Oh my God, I hope we get back now. Or we'll probably be here next year.
Thanks for being with us, Michael.
Okay,
see you later.
thank you.
Oh, I didn't know Roger was here. I see
Roger Harwood's here, along with a lot of other folks. Looks like they're starting to line up here, Gordy.
I think so. It's very close to 11 o'clock, actually. 11 o'clock in 30 seconds from now. So the commemorative ceremony will begin here at the obelisk. People have driven by this in their boats, I'm sure. Many people, American and Canadians and other nationalities, many years, and had no idea that there was a beautiful park here way back in the early part of the 20th century. And now that we do have a nice commemorative plaque here and over at the flagpole, people can take a trip out here, dock their boats on a much calmer day than we have today, and walk through the trails at this former park site. It's been a bone of contention for many different people through the years as to who is going to own the island, and Roger Jacobowski owned it for some time, as you might recall. And some people have really become zealots in terms of promoting this as an historic site. And John Rock, the guy whom you see up there getting ready to direct traffic for this ceremony today, is among the champions. We've got to thank John, because when he gets something in his craw, as my mother used to say, he doesn't put the flag down until it's complete. And that's why that flagpole still exists up there, and that's why we're here today. And if you could hear him talk about what plans are being made for the 200th anniversary celebration next year, you would know that this man really, really cares about the guys who died here. We're walking with the cameras, trying to get in a spot somewhere in a corner where we can get a good view of what's going on inside the enclosure around the Crab Island Monument. It's so nice to see the property cleaned up, restored, the plaques replaced on the four sides of the monument, and there is a lot of history involved here at Crab Island. I'm glad we didn't make any history of our own on the way over here today, that's for sure.
We're not back on
We're
solid
not there
ground
yet, no.
We're on solid ground, but not back on the mainland yet.
In the words of Bill Cosby, how long can you tread water?
And I'm very glad that Mike Rock remembered Pickles Toloski and the Line Mountain Legion, because when we first started coming here, they were the guys doing all this, and they certainly should be remembered for what they kept alive for all those years.
Oh, absolutely. Are you ready for loud sounds again with that?
Yeah, I think we're going to get it up close and personal. We see another camera person here. He's from Mountain Lake PBS we saw producer Derek Muirden when we were left the crew dock, and apparently he smarter than us. He stayed on shore and sent his cameraman. So we'll look for something on Mountain Lake.
You know, every time I see this bunch of guys and the guys who formerly worked for New York State Electric and Gas, I think of that erection when they put the flagpole up and they had their come-alongs and their different pulleys tied to all the trees, and they're raising that thing. And of course we were there holding our breath, almost virtually holding our breath through the whole process. Here we go.
Oh, they're just rehearsing here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're trying to stay out of the swing. If that had let loose, it would have wanted to stay far enough back, so it would have been
You
swinging
and
at
I
us.
did a little physics operation that day, saying, "Let me see where are we standing." So as it turned out, we stood next to a cannon that went off, and I'm not sure my ears ever recovered from it.
And you know, and again, around with the Battle of Plattsburgh, there's so many things that we've been able to capture. Certainly picking up the Confiance anchor with Frank Pabst, and you know, just such tremendous. Watching that anchor being brought into City Hall, going to the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base, and watching Dean Mosier, the artist, lay out the battle plans with the help of Frank Pabst and others to. So he could make a realistic painting of what happened that day, and we had historians there that rewrote the history of what happened that day because of what Frank Pabst knew.
Absolutely true, and we miss him. I guess we're just about ready to begin it shortly after 11 o'clock on the 13th of September, 2013 on Crab Island at the monument for the ceremony.
They're only going to get one chance to do it right, so they're making sure that it is going to be loud here. We've got nothing but trees in back of them, and nothing but lake
the sound
behind
of
us.
here, yeah.
So
I should be all right by 2 o'clock or so.
Everybody ready?
Okay, here we go.
Everyone ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered here today to pay honor and tribute to those who are fallen comrades who gave their ultimate sacrifice during the War of 1812. They gave up their lives for us on September 11th, 1814, which is 199 years ago. And we cannot say enough in their honor and presence today. We're going to lay a wreath in honor of those soldiers and fallen comrades in arms and sailors. Vern?
Prepare to fire. First squad, ready, aim, fire. Second squad, ready, aim, fire. Third squad, ready, aim, fire. Present, hard.
Yeah, that sounded very good, didn't it?
Very good.
That's a bugle that dates back probably to Civil War era by the looks of it, so that sounded wonderful. I don't know if I could push my lips that way on this cool day in September, but they've done it again, and I'm happy that Hometown Cable, Calvin Castine, has decided to bring the cameras out here once again, because you won't see it in too many places. The media has, in general, shunned Crab Island for some reasons that are obvious and some that aren't so obvious.
Smarter than we are.
So yeah, but we've jumped aboard those boats, those pontoon boats, which are very, I was going to say they're very stable, not today too stable, but they're not in any great risk of tipping over. So we took the trip across, and I understand with that wind from the north, it'll be a lot quicker trip going back.
At least
That's the theory.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's
We'll
the promise. All right, let's take a walk back. What do you say?
If you never see a show at the Clinton County Fair on Bluegrass, it's because we didn't make it back.
Yeah. We hope to be there later today. Let's take a walk.
As soon as these gentlemen walk out of here, we'll give them the...
Okay.
Nope, right on.
They're just taking the other one off.
Yeah, they're putting the other one up, so we're on.
Okay, we're going to put the Star-Spangled Banner up this wonderful Civil War era flagpole on Crab Island. And this will be the first time that Old Glory in the form of the 15 stars and the 15 stripes will have been raised on this flagpole. A tribute to a lady and her friends who stitched together that first Old Glory that flew over Fort Mchenry back in the early 1800s.
And Gordy, I can't say enough to thank Tim and Dale.
Gagnon.
Tim and Dale both. Called them up, said we'd like to get one. So they've got another one ordered, a 5x8.
Nice big one.
Yes, and we're probably going to order at least one more 5x8. We'll have one here. We'll have one up at Dewey Tavern at the cemetery there. And now we have this 3x5 going up. It'll just be briefly for their ceremony. And John Rock doesn't know this, but on behalf of the Woodmen, when we finish with this little ceremony, I'm going to present this to him. Yep. Don't let the cat out of the bag just yet.
Yeah.
Then we'll bring it down to the ceremony.
Okay.
I got to get our 5x8 flag.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Woodman also provided a 5x8 flag, a regular 50-star flag, which we'll be waving here after we leave. But when this 3x5 comes down, Mr. John Rock, who just went by, will be presented that flag in honor of all he has done here. And it's very fitting that he would have the first flag that has flown over here, the first Star-Spangled Banner that has flown over here since 200 years ago.
And for those of you who don't know it, these events and the commemoration of these events are as important to John Rock as they are to any person alive or dead. He's spent a great deal of his time thinking about it. He has been vociferous in his support of what happens here on Crab Island, to the point where he's had some real serious confrontations with people who didn't want to do what he thought was right to do. And he's already assured us that next year, on the 200th anniversary of the Battles of Plattsburgh on September 11th, 1814, our little trip will take place on the 11th of September on that date. So once again, the Hometown Cable cameras and Calvin Castine commemorating a very significant historic event. The first time the Stars and Stripes,
Star-Spangled Banner.
so Star-Spangled Banner, have flown with 15 stars and stripes on the top of this flagpole. You know, does it just make you tingle all over, John?
It does, isn't
First time on that flagpole.
Isn't that beautiful to have a period flag up there? It's gorgeous. And it's a real tribute and honor to the vets out here.
You know, Calvin and I were just saying how grateful we are to the Woodmen of the world for supplying these flags
Yes.
for us. It's very, very important to have something like this out here on this island. I know each day each day something new happens out here, it has even more meaning for you.
Well, this flag right here, Gordy, is also supplied by the Woodmen of the World, and we
course.
thank them so much for their generous gifts that they support us out here on the island.
The flag flies pretty good for that little flag, and there'll be a bigger one out there,
And
too.
it just looks beautiful to see those,
Don't you
the
love it?
period flag
Don't
up there.
you-
It's
don't you
something to
just
see.
love it?
Yes, I do, Gordy.
Do you remember the first time you ever saw this flagpole?
Yes. The first time I ever saw this flagpole, I was riding on the Juniper, and it was the old flagpole that was up.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That was many, many years ago. I'd say probably back in the late 80s or sometime. I mean that I really paid attention to it.
I would urge all of our viewers, whether they're watching us on their television sets or on the internet at hometowncablenetwork.com or plattsburgh.com, to go on to those websites and look at the shows that you and I and Calvin have done together over the years, to just find out how much history has taken place on this island since 1814.
Yes, it is. It's amazing, Gordy, and surprisingly, important people have forgotten about this, but the veterans and the legions have not, and people like you and I and Calvin, we have not forgotten about this, and we never will.
And never will. You just said the magic words,
Yes.
and we never will.
Yes.
I just talked about what a year next year is going to be. I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
Well, I'm getting pretty exciting just making plans and stuff for it, and we're actually going to set up, hopefully going to set up a field hospital out here, and I know a couple of people that maybe we might be able to get some of the period surgical instruments that they use, like for amputations and things like that, because the thing that people don't realize out here is that in these battles, they were shot with lead balls and stuff,
Oh,
and infections set in, and
Terrible.
most of the time they had to cut the limb or
Yeah.
whatever was bruised the area off.
Yep. Well, here we are in another day. Yes.
Good, John, if you just tell us who the visiting groups are.
Yeah. Who are the people that came with us?
This is the 40 and 8th, which is a group that was formed for World War I. It was 40 horses, 8 boxcar, and 8 men was where they got the 40 and 8. And that group was a basic start of the legions after World War I.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes,
Okay.
that's where they are, and a lot of people don't know their history. But that's, and of course, back in World War I, they moved horses with boxcars, and,
Sure.
and that's where it came from. And those were the groups they put. I don't know if they call them platoons, regiments, or what they were, but that's how they moved them.
Aha.
And
Okay.
40 horses, 8 men, 8 boxcars.
I
So
love
that's
it.
where the 40 and 8.
Okay.
And these are the Royal Marines out of Canada. These gentlemen come down every year with us, and they have 7 Royal Marines that were on the ships that were lost here and are buried on the island. That's why those gentlemen are over here. And next year they will be celebrating their 350th anniversary, and they are going to celebrate it with us with our 200th.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes. And
We're delighted to have them here.
And then our group over here is our post 1619
Yeah.
American Legion from West Plattsburgh.
All right. Thanks so much, John. We'll
Okay.
talk to you
All right,
later.
Marty.
It's nice, Gordy, that this is an international event.
It really is.
And a week ago at Dewey Tavern, Tom Mandeville was the MC, and he pointed out that right now, in 2013, we're celebrating 199 years of peace with Canada and Great Britain. And next year, we won't be commemorating the battle, we'll be commemorating 200 years of
200
peace.
years of peace.
Of peace.
That's something to think about, especially in the volatile world we live in 2013. The next step is to bring down the Star-Spangled Banner and put the regular flag back up on the flagpole. Wind is still blowing a gust here, maybe 15 or 20 miles an hour as we're here on Crab Island, with the people who matter on hand for these ceremonies today. And
You got Bern Malark holding the ropes there.
I just still can't help but think about how they raised this flagpole. Do you think the flag is stuck up there? That's what I'm looking at. I'm not. No, it's coming down.
There we go.
It's coming down.
So they'll put up the 50 star 5x8 flag, take down this 15 star 3x5 flag,
You know, I wrote a column for Sunday in the newspaper saying we're the last generation too, and you fill in the blanks. And I forgot to mention salute a 48-star flag or a 15-star flag, because of course even the Pledge of Allegiance was different when I was a little boy. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's nice to see that flag go up this pole. That was your idea. Did you think about that today or another day?
Well, last week when we were at Culver Hill, as you know, they got a flag just in time for that, and this one here was on order, and it came in earlier this week.
Very timely.
I asked Tim Gagno if I could pick that up and bring it and use it either here or at the Battle of Plattsburgh. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that
it was perfect for this
was the
occasion.
place, and this is the man right here who's going to own that flag when we're all said and done. But he doesn't know that at this point.
You want to talk to him now? Or
No, we'll let him get our ceremony done, and we'll do this after.
Then we'll do it.
Just tuck that in your jacket,
I got it, John.
We'll fold it up.
Thank you. All right, it'll be officially folded. And following the official folding,
Okay.
it'll be presented to Mr.
We'll do
John
it.
Rock.
And we understand that the weather was blustery back on September 11th, 1814. There it is. Once again, we're recording this on Crab Island, Hometown Cable, our little corner. Glad to cover as many of the commemorative events as we can for this 199th year, commemorating the battles of Plattsburgh, which occurred in September of 1814.
And there's so many events going on throughout this. Let's see if this gentleman here will chat with us right here.
Come on over and say hello to us. Since since we made it on the ship over here
That's
without
true.
going overboard.
That's true.
Tell us who you are.
My name is Ed Maylett. I'm Vice President of the Royal Marine Association in Ontario. We're very glad to be here, which proves we're still tough.
I think I had to hold my breath for about half of that trip over here this morning, but we didn't get very wet in the back of the boat, did
No,
we?
we didn't. No. I was wise. I knew it would be wet in the front.
Tell us a little bit about your group.
Well, we're
Presentation right here.
Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh, just a second. Okay.
On behalf of the Royal Marines, thank you for inviting us here today, and we present you with the Royal Navy Buses Rum.
Well, Neil, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here and to show the respect and honor for your troops that you so well deserve. Thank you very much. And if you will notice, this is British Navy rum. Buster's rum. Thank you.
I don't think a lot of people know what the importance that rum played during
Yes.
these battles back
That's
in the
right.
day.
That's
Good.
right.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Tell us a little more about your group.
Yeah, we're all former Royal Marines from the United Kingdom that emigrated to Canada. We meet every month. We attend Warriors Day, usually Remembrance Day, no matter what the weather is, and we parade our colors in the church, and we all stay together. Our guys age from about 89 up to about, I guess, 60s, maybe 70s, and we can still march. Or most of us
I watched
can.
you go through the
Yeah.
woods, so I
Yeah.
know you can.
Yeah.
I know you could march.
Okay.
We thank you so much for being here today,
Okay.
guys. You're
And by the
best.
way, we
You're
have
the best.
a few of our associates from London, Ontario, and they joined us today. But they didn't realize how tough it was getting here.
I saw water wings packed underneath their jackets for the whole group.
He's 92.
Isn't it? We guessed he was probably very close to 90. 92.
Yeah.
He started talking about the battles of World War
Yeah,
II.
he said it was easier getting off the landing craft in battle than coming here.
I love it. Thanks so much, guys.
John, it's going to be kind of hard to top a bottle of rum with you. But on behalf of the woodmen of the world throughout Clinton County, I want you to have this flag.
Calvin, I thank you very much, and I appreciate this, and this will be flown with pride. And I'm going to tell you next year for the 200th anniversary where we're going to fly this flag, it will be flown at the monument in honor of the graves. We know the graves are right behind the monument, somewhere out in that area, and this will be flown there in honor and tribute to the men who are laying there, who gave their life on that day in September 11th. Thank you very much, my friend.
That's great, John.
Thank
Glad
you,
to do
Gordy.
it. Thank you for all of your help. Have a great day. Have another shot of rum.
Well, they're all heading back to the Legion, Gordy.
Yep.
You and I have got to head for the Clinton County Fairgrounds to talk to the Atkinsons and a little bit of the bluegrass. But we did learn an interesting story about what happened with rum in the 1814.
Isn't that amazing? And we had no idea. We talked about the Jamaicans allowing a barrel of rum on every one of the ships. And when General Nelson was killed, they wanted to bring his Admiral Nelson was killed. They pickled his body in rum, immersed his body in rum to preserve it when they came back. And when they got there, of course, there was still some rum left. So they passed it around and drank it, and that's why rum has come to be called as a nickname, Nelson's Blood. Quite a story.
Yeah.
I'm almost glad I wasn't there that day.
No, I don't think I would have been first in line to have any of that rum.
But you know, this has been a pleasure for us to be here today as it is to cover all these events for the commemorations of the battles of Plattsburgh. We're hoping that our trip back on the boat will be just as eventful, no, not really, as it was coming out here. What do you say?
A lot of white caps out
A
there.
lot of white caps.
Okay. All right, let's hold our breath and go for it.
All right. Well, that was a much better trip back, wasn't
Oh, more pleasant, a lot more
it?
pleasant.
More pleasant. I hardly got a few drops.
Yeah.
When we went out out the long way.
Oh, we sure did. Okay, I forgot your name, Alexander Craig.
Craig, that's it.
Now, you wrote a book.
That's correct.
I thought you wrote a book last year.
It's taken me 3 years.
Oh, it
so
has. Okay. Okay. What's the title?
The title is Rockets, Bombs, and Bayonets.
That makes perfect sense.
Yes.
What inspired the book in the first place?
Well, basically, I've been coming down to Plattsburgh and Crab Island for about the last 10, 12 years. I think if you check your videos, you'll find that you
we
interviewed
did. We
me
sat
once.
next to each other. On
That's
the way
right. You
out.
remember that?
We've
Okay.
talked several times.
Yes.
Yep.
So what I wanted to do was find out more about the Royal Marine officers that served. There was about 6 of them. And when I started doing the research and finding out what they did, it leads to all sorts of other areas. And I thought, this is crazy, let's do a book about the entire war. So that's what I did. And it covers most of the campaigns. The Marines were naturally involved in all the sea battles. They were involved in a lot of the battles on the lakes. In fact, in every region except the extreme northwest, Mackinac Island area, everywhere else, the Marines, along with the Navy and the Army, of course, were involved in the war.
Was it a far more ambitious project than you dreamed at
Yes,
the beginning?
indeed it was, because it's like living with another person in the house. It just sort of takes over your life, and until you actually get it finished and so forth, it's a lot of hard work.
Have you done a lot of other writing?
Not a lot. I'm a member of the Royal Marines Historical Society and have been since the mid 1980s, and I write articles on British history in Canada. And of course that involved 1812, the 1838 rebellions. There's a lot of different areas, and it's surprising. There's been Royal Marines on Lake Ontario, for example, from 1812 right through to Confederation, 1866-67. They were there during the Fenian raids.
Did you uncover things that you didn't know in the process?
All the time, and I'll probably I'll make a bold statement. Anybody that reads my book is going to find things out that they didn't know about the war. There might only be 1 or 2 things, but I found a lot that I didn't know.
Is it an exercise that you'd like to repeat sometime, maybe with a follow-up?
Not really. As far as the autobiography of the actual individual officers, that hasn't been completed, so I'd like to get that finished. But as for another book or anything like that, it really depends on how well this one does. It seems to be working quite well at the moment.
It's always a pleasure when a process like that is finished for a while. You
Yes.
take a deep breath, and then you look at chapter 7 and you say you have a few second thoughts.
There's no such thing as a perfect book. There's always going to be something in it that could have been done better, and you sort of find that out, as you say, when you get the books back from the printer and a week later and someone says, oh, this.
How hard was it to get it published?
Well, it's self-published.
It is?
Yes. I had my sister pass away about a year or so before the book was published, and she left me a small endowment, and I applied that to what I already had saved, and I decided to self-publish it because I don't believe in having other people's interests influence what I think the book should be about. You might like it or dislike it, but I've tried and tell it as it was, and stick pretty close to the truth as much as possible.
So tell people how they can get a copy. People will be watching this all over the world.
Okay, in northern New York, it's available through the Battle of Plattsburgh Association Museum in Plattsburgh.
Great.
It's available through the Fort Ontario in Oswego. It's available at Fort Henry in Kingston, Canada, Fort Wellington in Kingston, Canada, the National Air Force Museum in Trenton, and we're working right now on other, more high-profile locations where history is usually looked for people.
A lot of people who are interested in history, especially in the War of 1812, the battles of Plattsburgh, I'm sure will want to get a copy.
Well, they're there, they're in town, they're available, they'll be on sale tomorrow. This is the Battle of Plattsburgh weekend, and we're hoping to do a little better on the normal pricing. So there's copies there and they're available.
I thank you so much, Alexander.
You're
Let me
welcome.
shake your hand.
My pleasure.
Thanks again. Can't wait to read it.
Oh, well, I hope you enjoy it.
See you later.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too. Bye-bye.
You know, we have thoroughly enjoyed ourselves today, especially when my feet touched the dock on the way back. Calvin's a non-swimmer, and I don't mind telling the rest of our viewers that it's a little bit tenuous every time he goes aboard a boat, even though it's fairly smooth. I've been aboard lots of boats. Mr. Bushy, thank you very much for taking us over there. We really enjoyed it,
We
Scott.
survived it.
You're a good captain. Thanks again. It's been a good day this September 13th, 2013. We went to Crab Island. We raised a few flags. We shot a few guns. Did your feet get wet, John?
No, Gordy.
Oh, you didn't?
I had just a little bit on one toe, but I had a pretty successful dry operation, as wet as the waves were.
You even had a little toddy there from the
Yes, from the Royal Marines.
Royal Marine
Yes.
rum bottle.
And you know, they're celebrating next year their 350th anniversary as well as our 200th anniversary. So it's going to be a celebration for everyone.
So wasn't this a great day so far?
It was a great day, Gordy, and what
All your fault, John.
and what a tribute and honor to the vets that gave their lives on the island.
We've enjoyed doing it. We've enjoyed giving you the Woodman of the World flag, so you own it forever and ever and ever.
Forever and ever.
First Star-Spangled Banner that went to the top of that flag.
And I'm going to tell you, that flag is going to fly. It went to the top of the flagpole today. Tomorrow it's going to fly on the float in the parade.
Oh, I love it. That's
I have-
even better.
I have a.
We'll be sure to
I have a
focus on
very
that
new,
one.
fresh pole for that.
Oh, you do.
Yes, and it will be right up in the front of the float we have two floats we're 48 feet long with two trailers.
Lord willing, and if the lake doesn't rise more than 5 or 6 feet, Calvin will be, and I will be there with
And
that
you will
parade
see your
tomorrow.
flag tomorrow in the parade also.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Gordon.
Have a great
Calvin.
day, my friend.
Hi,
Thank you all for supporting what Calvin and I do with Hometown Cable. We're delighted to hear your comments and suggestions. We're even more delighted when you write a generous check and send it to Hometown Cable, care of our little corner. Send it to Calvin Castine on the Ridge Road, Champlain, so that we may continue doing what you saw today for a long time into the future. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our